And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
I'm Justin.
Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
And we also founded Codename too.
We're going to be your hosts for this episode and for basically every episode, whether you like it or not.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
It's remained to be true.
Today is our 82nd episode. Yay!
And our second episode since you were last sick.
Okay. Are you going to be like keeping track of that every episode now that you pulled those episodes or those numbers together last episode?
You betcha.
I did not sign up for this.
Well, don't you worry. It's a complimentary service. No charge.
Can I opt out?
Sorry. It is a mandatory complimentary service. Still no charge, though.
As always, we are here to answer your development and design questions about Idle Champions.
But if you don't ask any questions, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of, this looks good this week, him designing the reworked collection dialogue. I think I might actually want to see that.
Too late. I can see we already have questions.
You are a cruel, cruel man.
Yeah, but I feel like it's going to backfire on me one day. Someone's going to like mute chat just before the stream starts, and then I am boned.
Who would do such a thing? Anyway, as always, we have pulled some questions forward from the previous show that we didn't get to last week, and we will answer some of those while we're waiting for new questions to come in. But before we get to those, I do have some updates on the items we flagged to get looked at by the dev team. Really good updates this week. Better than usual. So yeah, without any further stalling for time, well, let's get started with those. Different doc. It's this doc. Aha! All right. So I guess off the top, before we get into that, thank you to everyone for your patience during the server maintenance that happened on Monday. Everything with that actually went really, really well. We managed to get everything done on schedule. I think we said it would take 5 to 7 hours to do, and we landed right at about the 6-hour mark, getting that completed and the servers back live. So that was great. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the bonus items we gave out for the downtime. Moving into the fixes and new features, I do have so I have in fact been getting tired of repeating myself every week, and so this week we have 3 features that are done, and they're not out yet, but they are in the done list, and that is that there's adding a tooltip to gear with max level to indicate the progress towards the max level. That is complete. It's on the master branch and ready to get pushed out with whatever the next build is. Adding an option on mobile to quick return to Area 1. After checking in on this, I'm told this actually was completed, and it does work, which is that you click and hold on the button to go backwards, and that works. And then we're further from that looking into, don't do that, Windows. Further from that, we're looking into adding some additional dialogue there to actually help with choosing specific areas. So that's a further one that'll come, but just the quick return to Area 1 is there, and it does work. The additional icons on the quest tracker for the different types of season quest is also done. Those are indicated both with a different color on the box, the color matching the colors on the seasons dialogue, as well as a little letter indicating whether it's a daily, a milestone, or a full season-long quest. Into the in-progress list, we have 3 features that are actually underway. They're being actively worked on. The first one is the save feats with formation. Alex has gotten a start on that. The random skin mode, Jared has almost completed that, and recall for familiar, Mark has that also mostly completed. The only item left on the list here that I've been repeating is the indicator for unread changelog. That has not been looked into yet. So I'm going to need some new items to get into these lists here so that I have actually something to talk about when we start. Yeah. Anyway, that's the list. Before we move into leftover questions from the prior shows, I do have a quick demo of the new chest feature, which is also coming out probably early next week. I know I had the slider, which I demonstrated last week, and then I didn't have any opening, so I grabbed another video for that, and I'm just going to pop that up next, which is here. All right. So as you can see, I've got my lovely collection of aluminum chests there. Yep, definitely aluminum chests. That's what they are. And I would like to open a large number of them. Not 50, not 250. Oh, no, come on, the scroll bar is being a jerk. I think when I was recording that, my client froze. I want to open 1,000 of them. We're going to hit there. And mind you, this opening time is a little bit slow because it is happening on the dev server. But right about there, it is at that point, the data is back and the client is processing it. And boom, 1,000 chests, 1,000 aluminum chests have been opened.
What's an aluminum chest there? That looked very similar to what you find in gold chests.
Yeah, aluminum chest is a special chest only I have on my account. Not available for the general public, unfortunately. It's up there with the clairvoyant admin chests that we also just don't make available.
You are not allowed to ask for aluminum chests during the weekly giveaway.
Yes. All right. So that's coming soon. That's coming next week. So we've got a lot of great things up and coming, and onto the questions.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Yeah, I think we've got a couple from last week that we can start with.
Cool. First one here is from Max I. Cubert, and they're asking, any thoughts on reworking time gates, like changing the buckets for free time gates or gaining a feat for champions that you already have, or anything new, really?
Yeah, I think we touched on this in last week's episode, but I saw this question later on, and I just wanted to sort of repeat some of the stuff we said there. So we are looking, or we are thinking about, I guess at this point, redoing the buckets and potentially adding a 4th free time gate slot. So when a free time gate opens, there'd be 4 champions offered instead of just 3. Those are really the kind of the changes that we're looking at in time gates right now. I think the idea of adding some additional kind of rewards or additional ways of gearing out champions through time gates is a valid thing to think about, but we haven't really spent any design time on it yet.
Okay. Next question. Oh, this is a fun question. Or at least hopefully it's got a fun answer. This is from Alpha Kroll, and they would like to know, have you considered separating the reset time for each region in the world for the game? Like Europe resets an hour earlier and Asia, Australia an hour later, to spread the daily reset load on the servers?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't think we have considered that. I think the complications that would come from that would outweigh the potential benefits that we would gain from that. Plus, we don't really I'm sure we could figure out where people are coming from.
That's the one tricky.
And do some reverse IP lookups or something like that. But it doesn't. I mean, yeah. It's not really something we track right now. We don't really know where people are, or really have a lot of interest in knowing where people are. So it's not something that I guess we could let people opt into a particular region, but then we have a question of well, what if they opt into Europe to get the reset early, and then opt into Asia, Australia, and get another reset 2 hours later? It's we start to run into a lot of questions and a lot of complication. I do think that the load on the servers during the daily reset at noon Pacific time is something that we are looking at, and it is something that we are trying to address through a variety of means. The main sort of load on that comes from challenge resets, I think, and we are looking at ways to sort of spread out some of that load by sort of pre-generating challenges for the next day or things like that, which I think would help a lot more than a sort of a complicated system for adding regions.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, and I know it's sort of it's a nuisance. It's a nuisance that doesn't. We're down for what? Or not down per se, but calls get sort of bogged down for about
like a minute or two.
Yeah, about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Which of course we see every day. We look up and we see the monitors with the little red line through that particular moment. But it certainly would be nice to not have it happen. But it's not it's not super burning at the moment, which is why we've got a bunch of ideas, but we haven't implemented them yet in terms of fixing that.
There was a time back in the day when that downtime was more like 5 minutes every day, and we certainly took some long looks at it then, and were able to get it down to like a minute or two. And I think with some clever refactoring, we can get that down to basically nothing. And that's kind of our plan to address that. And I think that is something where I don't know if we've got I don't think we have a developer on it yet, but we've got a plan for it at least.
Okay. On to questions from this week.
Yeah, the first one here is for you, Dave.
Oh boy.
It's from Wakies, which is...
That's a new name.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic
Wakies.
Considering what the question is. At least that's how I'm choosing to pronounce it, so that it's ironic considering the question. It might be Wackies or something like that, but anyway.
Okay.
Their question is
is
there a way to allow the game to let my monitor turn off while the game is running? It's somewhat difficult for me to get to sleep with my monitor on all night.
Does the game prevent... I bet the game does prevent sleep, doesn't it? I'm just thinking about I know we probably went out of our way to actually tag that for tablets and phones, because that was a long requested feature, was that if I don't touch my phone every 3 minutes or whatever, the app goes to sleep. I actually didn't even consider that particular flag would be impacting Windows.
Sorry, I think Chad is thinking the same thing I was thinking through this.
Interesting. Which is
I thought it was an interesting question about kind of keeping the game keeping the monitor going, but yeah, I was thinking you could probably just turn your monitor off.
Yeah,
if it's keeping you up.
I mean, that's certainly my personal approach at home. It's actually rather, I find that because I do have my main computer in the bedroom, if you don't turn the monitor off, if you get up in the middle of the night and you jostle the floor, which shakes the mouse, like it's just enough to shake the mouse and the monitor comes on. Which is why it is, I think, more beneficial to turn off the monitor. But in terms of what the player's asking, I didn't realize that feature was affecting the sleep mode. We could take a look and see if there's a flag we can set.
It seems like it could be an option.
Yeah, well, like I say, there specifically is an option to not allow sleep mode, which we were putting on for phones and tablets, and so it's possible that we enabled that, and whatever that is actually also happens on PCs, and it was sort of an inadvertent case. So we can confirm that. Certainly something that's never come up for me before, but okay. Next question. This one is from Emote. Asking, will the alchemy system you've mentioned allow consolidating bounty and blacksmith contracts into higher tiers? If not, could it please be implemented some other way? And perhaps even add even larger sizes?
Yeah, so this is a good question. The design of the alchemy system at this point does not include the contract scrolls for bounty and blacksmithing contracts. Thematically, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think we've talked about this before. If you put the scroll into like some water and crush it down, it's not going to it's just going to go away. It's just going to turn into some pulp. Whereas if you mix potions together and whatnot, I could see that resulting in a more powerful potion, or diluting it into... Anyway, thematically, story wise, it doesn't make a lot of sense. With that said, we definitely hear that there is a desire for that functionality, if not that particular story. So I mean, I think it's something that we can think about.
You can't just like consider gluing the contracts together and then it's worth the value of the two of them.
Like the alchemy is just making the glue, or some solvent to unglue two of them. Yeah. I mean, didn't everyone know? Like, just a large bounty contract is just 4 small bounty contracts glued together.
He's making a new contract. He takes the 4, he keeps those, and then the contract is with him. It's like when you do debt consolidation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Alchemists can just create contracts out of... What is he like? He's got to shred the other ones, or else it's not a zero-sum thing. Anyway.
No, he keeps them.
We do hear that there's a desire for those, and so it's definitely something that we can
duct
keep in
tape.
mind. With the a question about adding larger sizes. I think that's also something we can consider at the same time. And spoiler alert, one of the things we're thinking about doing with the alchemy system is adding a legendary tier of potion. Keeping in mind that we already have named something legendary potions, so we might have to think about that. But we are thinking about adding a larger size of potion that would have some additional benefits in addition to just having a larger buff. So that is something that is planned. So I could see something similar being created for the contracts as well.
Okay. I was just going to note, looking in the chat, I saw that Wakies or Wackies, depending on how we're pronouncing that, followed up saying it was working properly before a patch a few weeks ago, which I think is still, if that's referring to the sleep thing. If that's the case, if that's what you're mentioning, I can run it by and see if anything was changed in the last 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks for whatever build went out there, because it seems possible that somebody altered how that behavior was working. So if that's the case, we're gonna run it by them and see if someone knows off the top of their head if they changed something, because that does feel like something that might get noticed. Mm-hmm. Okay, next question. This one is also from Emote. And Emote is asking, have you decided what you're going to be doing with the unaffiliated Modron core once the season ends? Available for 6 months, or available after 6 months like the rest, or sooner? Available for gems? If so, how much? Etc. Asking for my Modron library.
Yeah, so my guess on that is, since it was in the free track this time, actually... Honestly, I'm not sure. I haven't discussed this with Dupuis. It'll definitely be season. What's the word I'm looking for? Exclusive. Season exclusive for 6 months. So I don't think it'll be available sooner. So we'll still have that kind of period of time where folks who played the season will be able to have it exclusively. And then after that time, I mean, the premium one from season 1 is just going into wild offers very, very soon. I think that's the next time we do a push, it'll be in wild offers. But since this one was on the free track, I'm not sure if we will do it for gems or if we'll also just put it into the wild offers. Yeah, that's something that we'll have to discuss internally and figure out. But my suggestion would be, if you haven't gotten it yet on the season track, go get it before the season ends.
In the chat, Garwar is suggesting the legendary potions, they could be supersized potions. That would be the yeah.
We'd have to fight McDonald's for the trademark for that.
It's got a slightly negative connotation, I think, but would you like to supersize that?
The next question here is from Lediath, who asks, can the devs please take another pass at the combat text rework? Readability is still an issue even after the latest patch.
Yeah, I mean, the combat text, I'm trying to remember exactly where that landed with the combat piece that Jarrett was looking at. I know sort of readability was one piece of it, and readability, especially on sort of when there's large numbers of it, is going to always be difficult. As far as sort of reducing sort of the clutter, I think we achieved some of that. I didn't actually see sort of the final state of it. We can certainly, it's something that is likely going to have to be revisited, but I know what ended up happening was that the text that was there was sort of unified, because I think there were a handful of different pop-up style texts, and I know Jarrett was quite distraught that that was being done in that way, and so when it came to putting together the text for the crit text, that he sort of rewrote and unified that system, so it should be easier to make some changes going forward. But I know that sort of the way it's still a question of how much how to show and have shown a way that is actually readable and understandable a large number of monsters getting hit all at once. And I think that's, I mean, aside from simply not showing it, or even showing like one combined number, doesn't really tell you what happened other than just not look cluttery. I think it's sort of, I don't have a perfect solution for that, but it is something we could spend a little more time on. Next question. This one is from Max IQbert. Do you plan to make Force Grey somewhat have a synergy?
That's a good question. And I was kind of thinking about it after I saw the question, and I think it would be nice to get to Force Gray and try and give them a synergy. I think there's a couple of issues with that. One of them being they're not really a great diverse group. There's a lot of kind of DPS in that affiliation. A lot of champions who just want to do a lot of damage rather than kind of working as a solid group. Um, I mean, there are some support champions there as well, but I think they also have they're also a lot of them are evergreen champions, core champions. So I don't think we would necessarily spend a lot of time on evergreen and core champions, simply because it's very hard to get the balance on those champions right because of the fact that silver and gold chests are much more common than all the other types of quests or chests. And additionally, Force Gray as an affiliation really hasn't been around. Like there's not really any live shows for them anymore. Everyone's just kind of moved on and doing their own thing. And I think we like to, when we're looking at sort of affiliations for reworks or for seasons specifically, we like to look for ones that are still active, and so that we can kind of build up some hype, not just in our game about them, but also on the live streams about them. So I think it'd be nice to do a Force Gray rework sometime down the road, but if I had to guess, if I were a betting man, then I think that I probably wouldn't bet on them getting a rework anytime in the near to medium future.
Okay. Here's a fun question, Justin. I know you really want to answer this.
I do want to answer this.
Perfect. Then, without any stalling, Super Fluffy Kitty asks, why do certain things get left out of the changelog? The recent blessing additions weren't added this time around. Shouldn't everything go into the changelog?
Yes. So to answer your last question first, yes, it's my opinion that everything should go into the changelog. Unfortunately, I'm not the only developer on the game, and a game like this is very complex, and there are a lot of developers working on things all the time, and there are a lot of different branches to the game getting merged into the main branch and getting pushed out. And there's changes that are data driven, and there's changes that are code driven. There's changes that are code driven and then hidden behind a flag. And essentially, what happens is it is a very complex thing to actually keep track of everything that's going out in a particular update and get that all into the changelog in a way that is efficient. It's something that definitely we are trying to do. It's something that's, I think, mainly on Peter's plate, and he definitely tries to get everything into the changelog, and he does feel bad when things do not get into the changelog. But it's a very complex thing, and we do our best. Sometimes we miss some things, and we do try to rectify that after the fact by sort of hot fixing the changelog, if you will, and getting that in there. It always feels bad for me, and I'm sure for others in the team when we do have a major thing like blessings, just get missed in the changelog. And I'm sure the reason the blessings likely got missed is because that was something that we added to the game many weeks ago, but we're just waiting for the right update to actually enable them. And so they probably didn't get added to the changelog at the point at which they were put in, because they weren't actually going to go live for several weeks after that. And by the time we got to the update that actually included the blessings going live, it got missed when we just went in and enabled the flag and then didn't go to the changelog document and add them in there at that time. So it's something we can try to improve on, but it's something that is it's easy to miss things sometimes, depending on sort of the process that took them from design through to implementation.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think, and I would add a caveat, of course, and that is that, the last question, which is, shouldn't everything go into the changelog? If we put, asterisks and quotes around everything, I think the answer to that is no, not everything should go into the changelog. There's lots and lots of things that are not user-facing and don't end up having an impact on the game as far as it's from a player's perspective, but like, hey, maybe we rewrote the way this particular feature was storing some data or whatever, and lots of that sort of thing does happen, and it's not something that I wouldn't want to see that cluttered into the changelog, because then it would be confusing when it comes to like, well, what does this how does this impact me? And if the answer is it doesn't impact the players at all, then I don't think it should be in the changelog. And so that's certainly there's always a balance of, is this user facing? And the answer, if it's user facing, then 100% it should go into the changelog. But yeah, and especially things like blessing, that's an obvious one of like, yes, that absolutely should have been in the changelog. Net new thing, why is it not there? But I do think there's a certain degree of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not discretion's not the right word, but like certain things belong there and certain things would not help to be there. So, but it is still a hard thing to keep on top of for the various reasons that you mentioned. Okay, next question. This is from Aniscus, and Aniscus says, "Good day. Can we get more pirate skins for champions and familiars, please? Thanks a lot in advance." How come we don't have more pirate skins?
I think this question should have started with R. So good day. But I'd love to do more pirate skins. I think it's always fun. I think one of our very first skins we ever did was a pirate skin. Pirate
Brunar was like my very first skin suggestion when we started talking about it. That was the first thing. It might have just been an indication of my lack of creativity, like, pirate skins. But
it's like, what did I dress up for Halloween last year? Ooh, let's do that for skins in the game. So yeah, I mean, I'm always on board with more pirate skins. I know.
I see what you did there, being on board with.
Haha. I know that in the stream that we did on Monday, where Dupuis went through kind of the roadmap for what was coming out, I know that the pirate skins came up in that as well.
Oh, I didn't catch it.
Oh, you missed out. I mean, I know you were busy, transferring the server data and doing the server maintenance. So I don't blame you for missing it. But yes, it's definitely something that is on our collective radar here, that folks are interested in pirate skins. And I would not be surprised to see more down the road. It'd be great to have an entire pirate formation that you can put together.
Pirate cats. Okay.
All the pirate skins for the champions, and then also pirate skins for all the familiars as well. Definitely. Let's see. Next question is from T5 Cats, who asks, any hope for the enemy health to be displayed somewhere other than the 1/10 of the second they're on the field? Soon.
Enemy health. So I guess the question is not just specifically the health bars. So I saw a question scroll by, and I don't know if it got caught, but I know there was a question around showing the health bars, or having the setting to show the health bars so they don't go away, which I'm trying to remember, and maybe this is... I thought we did add that as like an option to turn on and off, but...
I don't think so.
No,
because I think it was for like the champion health or champion formation circles or something that we have an option to.
Well, we know we've got that, but I think there was.
The D key apparently turns mob health on.
There we go. Yeah, I think we had done something
intuitive.
for it.
D is for display the enemy health, please.
All right. Well, listen, I don't recall that it was D, but I thought it was an option that we had. I thought because we had something similar on the console version, right? When you held down one of the triggers, you got to see the health. And I think the question was asking to have that on iOS, because obviously it's a little tricky to hold down the D key on your phone. I
mean, I think the other thing that people are looking for here is just
to know the number,
what the maximum health is for monsters in the area, because every monster in the area, except for kind of special variant cases, would have the same max health. And so knowing that in relation to your DPS could be very valuable. And if you're instant killing things, then it's going to be very hard to catch that
very hard.
The time that they're alive.
We want you to get OBS, put the game into that, record it, pause the frame, go through the video one frame at a time. Yeah.
Come on, Pete.
We're not asking for solutions here. I mean, that's a good idea. I don't know. Do you think it would make sense to have some of the area details somewhere? I know sort of earlier on it was one of those things where it's like, that's not really sort of shared per se, but I mean, it's there, the information's there to grab. So like if you hovered the area, it'd be like max monster health is this, and damage, monster damage is this.
They drop and that sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think that is, I've one of the things I've been wanting to do is basically a complete kind of rework of the not like the champion UI, as well as yeah, some of the enemy stuff there, and sort of when we display special monster features, like if you're in a area 50 or whatever that has a special boss monster, we have like a debuff or a buff tooltip that has like information about that, but it feels like that should be generalized in a better way. And also we need to do something about our formation arrows and whatnot, and knowing incoming and outgoing effects for on a particular champion at a glance.
All right, one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Let's not get carried away.
There's a bunch of stuff that we need to do there to make that better.
Showing area gold and monster health. That's different, totally different ballpark than making those.
That's true.
At a glance, understand all the incoming and outgoing buffs.
Yes, it's all part of some UI stuff that we could really improve upon on just the main game screen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think you got a little carried away.
You want?
What are your thoughts on having just the enemy health area, like gold, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we could toss that. We could toss that into a buff icon for the time being until we get a chance to do something better.
Yes, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, we cleared off most of those top of the show requests, so we can add some new ones here, and then I can repeat it for. Oh God. Okay, let's move on to the next question. This question is from Delcon, asking, "Will the Kickstarter skins be available in any other way at some point?"
So I think this is referring to the Penny Arcade Kickstarter.
Don't look at me.
I'm looking at you because I'm hoping you know. So I don't know what the plan is for those skins. I assume that at the very least there would be kind of our 6-month exclusivity period, and then they would go into something. But I do not know what the plan is for that. We generally don't do a lot of Kickstarter rewards. I think this is a pretty rare thing, so I don't know that we have a specific plan for that as to what we are planning to do. I will also check with Chris and get the updates on that.
Right. Okay.
Let's see. The next question is from Dark Drake 0210. This is another one about monster health bars. Apparently, we're just getting a whole bunch of these. They ask, "Can you make a monster's or boss's health bar move to above the monster/boss if the boss goes to the bottom of the screen, please?" I imagine this is when it gets behind like the ultimate buttons.
Well, we can answer that question, Justin, but I think it's giveaway time.
Oh my gosh, is it giveaway time? Oh yeah, that's way down here. Yeah. Do you want to answer the question and then we'll do the giveaway? Just with like a yes or a no?
Sure. Why not? So can we make monster health bars move above the monster if it goes off the bottom? It's something that I can see if people can try it out and see what it looks like. I know there was another question that we'll get to shortly that's similar on that. Yeah, I can ask and see if we can see what that looks like. I'm not 100% sold on it, but it might work.
I think it's definitely an issue in like multi-tank formations. If you have 2 or 3, especially probably 3, or I'm not sure if we even have any formations with 4, but 3 or 4 tanks, and the boss goes to the bottom one, or the enemy goes to the bottom one, the health bar would definitely go behind the bottom UI. So,
right.
Something to think about, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, as Dave alluded to mere moments ago, it is time for our world famous, let's say, 2:30 every Thursday.
2:35 now.
42 chest giveaway. Running a little bit late today. But yes, we are going to be giving away 42 chests of your choice if you win. It's not your choice if you don't win. It's the choice of the person who wins. So the way that works is you type the special keyword into chat. Today, the special keyword is Insights82. That's not very inspired today, but we'll take it. It's Insights82. You type Insights82 into chat, and that will enter you for a chance to win. Whoever wins gets to pick the type of chest, and we'll add 42 of those to your account. It cannot be Glory of Bahamut chests, for reasons. But it could be any other type of chest that exists in the
What
game.
about aluminum chests?
It cannot be aluminum chests. They do not exist in the game.
But I've got video evidence, Justin. Video evidence.
They do not exist in anybody's game except for yours, because you hacked them in, you dirty hacker.
I definitely didn't Photoshop that in.
You definitely didn't. Yeah, so good luck to everyone on that giveaway. Let's go back to the questions.
All right. Next question. This is from Library of Akasha. And they ask, or say and then ask.
It's
Personally,
more of an ask.
Yeah, I think Emergence was supposed to be a one-time event for the D&D movie, and Pigments were a mistake. This is just my opinion, but what do you think?
So this is going to be a cheeky answer. As the person who designed the Emergence and the Pigments, I do not believe they were a mistake. It was a very intentional feature, and I think the way that it was intended to be used and will be used in the future is to sort of fill time between seasons, and that is what we are doing coming up with the upcoming Modron Emergence. We're going to have a slightly longer Emergence, and with a slightly different set of things in the shop, and I think it's going to be an interesting way to sort of fill time between seasons, between other things, whenever something comes up that we want to highlight. It's also a nice way for players to be able to get some of the stuff that we normally exclusively put into DLC packs, right? Like, we don't often have GEs or skins available for players to get for free, so it's an opportunity to get some of those things. I think it is it definitely. I mean, I certainly don't think that we've seen enough sort of data to believe that it was something that was a mistake to add to the game. Next question here is from Garwar, and this is actually this might actually be related to the Monster Health Bar thing.
Yeah, this is what I was alluding to, that there was another question coming up. Yeah.
So Garwar asks, any chance we can get a hide UI button for the bottom UI like there is for the top? Sometimes you can't see what's going on in a 3 frontline formation.
I don't see why not. The little hide UI button for the top one is almost it's practically invisible. I think a lot of people don't know that that's there.
It's one of those dangerous things that if somebody hits it and doesn't realize, like, they misclick and accidentally hit it and their top UI goes away, they're like, excuse me, like, my client has a bug. I don't have a top UI anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite as bad as the hold the mouse button down and make 3 circles to,
We do get more emails about that than we do about the hide UI button on the top.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I said, I don't see any reason why we couldn't add a little button to drop that down. I think, some of the Monster Health Bar issues, like moving them around and to fix that, is also a good option. But hey, maybe people just want to see the bottom of the background graphic, which I think sometimes is less filled in because they know it's not going to be visible. That might be the reason.
That's the reason we don't have it. It actually just cuts off an inch or a half before the bottom of the game.
Someone's written something cheeky down there. They know no one's going to see.
Yeah. No, we will. We'll look into putting in that button, and then we will confirm that there's nothing written in the background.
Okay.
No, I'm sure there aren't.
No. Next question. This question is from Slooper Fluffy Kitty, who asks, C-Team, Waffle Crew, and Acquisition Inc. rework when? Or when will we amalgamate them all? Strix and Rosie are the granddaughter/grandmother, and it's criminal that they aren't in the same affiliation.
Whoa. Don't send the cops after me, man. Yeah, so I think like I kind of talked to before about the Force Grey one. The kind of thing we look for when we're looking at doing reworks is like the stream or the player is still active, and I think Ac Inc. is a much better sort of candidate for this kind of thing because they are all still active. Some of them more than others. I think the Waffle Crew itself is kind of moved on, but the C team and Ack Inc, we still see a lot of them, and a lot of the players from the Waffle Crew are now playing with Ack Inc. I think Evelyn plays a lot with Ack Inc. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a much better opportunity for a rework than Force Grey, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that kind of rework a little bit sooner.
Okay.
Next question is from Jacques of Hearts, who asks, can we get an indicator for if an ability is considered a positional formation ability?
A positional formation ability. I suppose this is to differentiate from the abilities that are listed there that affect everybody that are not positional formation abilities.
There are a fair number of abilities that are not really considered positional because, they either affect everyone or they affect just the champion that's on them.
And do you think there's?
So. I mean, from my perspective here, I think that this is probably pretty doable because certainly in the game, like the effects system has an idea of which abilities are positional versus not positional because there are certain buffs that I can think of that apply to positional formation abilities specifically. Positional formation abilities are also the ones that can be usurped, observed, and reversed or inverted rather with Warduke. So I think we definitely have this information. My only concern is that there are some abilities in game that count as positional formation abilities that the design team potentially wouldn't consider positional formation abilities, or vice versa. That if we automate the system of calling things positional, it might cause some confusion from both design side and from players side. So it's something that I think we could do, but I would want to be very careful about it in terms of kind of making sure that it is accurate to both implementation and to design. I guess one of my biggest fears is that we put that on there and then it would become very clear that a certain ability was considered positional and was getting buffed by some of those things that buff positional formation abilities, and it was something that design had specifically flagged as not positional, and we might have to go ahead and potentially make some adjustments to that and how that functions, which I guess the difference between having that in there and making those changes is really the fact that it is working not like we want it to, and we just don't know it. So, I think it's something we can look at. Okay.
Next question. This is from Maniac Clown. If completing patron challenges is going to keep being a season-related challenge, can you please have the season challenges and patron challenges reset on the same day, whether that's Monday or Wednesday? In fact, why don't patrons reset on Wednesday?
That's a fair question. I think the reason we didn't want patrons to reset on Wednesday is because Wednesday was new content rollout day, and we wanted folks to be able to sort of focus on patron challenges in the first couple days of the week before refocusing onto new content or events or whatnot on the Wednesday when we release them. So that's the reason why patrons initially were set to reset on Monday. Season challenges, of course, reset on Wednesday because Wednesday is the day that seasons come out, and so if we didn't have them reset on Wednesday, then we would have an offset, or we wouldn't have an offset. We'd have a different number of days in the first week of the season than in the subsequent weeks. So, I still like the fact that patron challenges reset earlier in the week, and so you have something kind of to do after the weekend ends. It also helps to spread out a little bit of that noon load that we were talking about earlier, which is nice. So I don't know. This is a tough one. I can't really think of a nice way to consolidate those. Yeah, I mean, as some folks in chat are saying, it is something that, it's not a super big deal because the season challenges are always there the next week. We always do these as the seasonal challenges, which last until the end of the season. So you've always got time. It's just I can definitely understand the idea that you load up the game on Wednesday, get the new season challenges, and want to complete them all as quickly as possible. But you've already done your patron challenges, so you have to wait 5 days to do that one. I'm definitely one of those people who like to fill my progress bars as quickly as possible. So I can definitely see how that would be irksome, but it's not a game breaking thing for me. I don't know what I would do about this.
That's a very long-winded no.
Yeah, well, you got to fill the time somehow.
Okay.
It's a no, but it's I understand where you're coming from, and I sympathize. No.
Yes, I've got to fill your progress bar.
Let's see. Let's move on to the next question here. This one's from Safety Goth, and they say,
"Wait, nope, not that." Anyway,
that's Safety Dance. Yeah. So this one's from Safety Goth. Who says the efforts to update the offline/background party system were valiant, and we sort of know how it panned out. Are there updates/fixes planned there anytime soon? Thanks.
Yeah. So as far as the offline progress or the rework on that or the rewrite on that went, my understanding at this point, and it's sort of really should check in with Peter on what the reports are looking at, is that sort of the cases where the offline progress isn't giving you the amount of progress that you expected is greatly reduced at this point. But the biggest sort of impact that's still there is that certain speed champions or abilities that would need to proc sort of over a series of areas where they build up and then they proc and have special handlers for that isn't implemented on a lot of those champions. It is something that we probably would benefit from going like down a specific list of champions that are used in that way and adding in specifics for them. And I know it's something that I mentioned previously, probably earlier in the year. And what we really need to do is actually like figure out that list of champions and get that prioritized. But it isn't something that we've prioritized at this point. So where it sits right now is that the offline system should be giving the correct progress sans the specific speed champions and not sort of halting at random and incorrect places. Now that is kind of my understanding is where we're getting for reports. I haven't checked in with Peter recently, but I know sort of the reports that have made their way to me have been a lot fewer. So I don't know, Justin, if you've sort of had any inklings of where that's come, like where that looks like it's at for you.
I am not really sure. No, I know we're planning on making a couple more adjustments to the background party stuff, but
no, but I mean in terms of like seeing reports, because I know it was a.
Yeah, I mean, I still see them from time to time, but it's definitely reduced, and I'm not sure if it's reduced because of the changes we made or because all the people who are having issues just stopped playing. But I'm hoping it's because of the changes we made. I'm fairly sure. It's definitely a more streamlined system now.
Yeah, and it does have specific hooks to handle game change rules and abilities that happen during offline catch up. So. Some of which I know came up yesterday during code review for a new ability, a new variant that's going out at some point. I don't know when that one's scheduled to go out, but I know that it's going to have proper offline hooks because it was covered when it was reviewed. Okay, next question. This one is from Loopy79 asking, is the design intent that all adventure areas should have distractions? Because that currently isn't the case. It's a long-standing issue that's been reported multiple times, but it doesn't seem like anything is being done to change or fix it. So wondering what the intent is there.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think from a design intent, I don't think it necessarily is our intention that all areas should have distractions. With that said, I think that most should. And I don't think there should necessarily be any adventures where there are no areas that have it. With that said, I could definitely see how this would happen. Sort of the way that our tools work when we're putting together backgrounds, adding distractions is sort of a secondary task that you have to do when you're putting a background together. And I know there have been times when that has been missed on the kind of the checklist, and it's something where we got to go back and take another stab at it. I can also add this to my list to chat with Dupuy about, and make sure that when the next areas are getting put in, that we go through and check to see if there's any backgrounds that should have distractions, and get them in there. The other thing I would say is there's two kind of types of distractions, or I guess three types of distractions if you try and break it down a little bit more. There's sort of the static distractions that are generally on the ground, and you click them as they kind of scroll by on the background. Then there's running distractions on the ground, and then there's flying distractions in the air. And flying distractions in the air are pretty safe to put into pretty much any background. Running on the ground ones, and ones that are static on the ground, sometimes we will do areas specifically that do not have those, because it just doesn't make sense for the background. Certainly there's like some I know where you're like walking on rooftops, or all the ones in Avernus where you're like driving on the Avernus car thing that we have there, where it doesn't really make sense for there to be things on the ground or whatnot, because you're just going so fast. So yeah, there's definitely some areas that don't make sense for certain distractions, and there could be it's possible that they just got missed during that time, because it didn't make sense to put in the ground ones, and so we didn't bother to put in the flying ones as well. So I think that yeah, we can definitely take a look and see if we missed anything there. And it probably wouldn't be too hard to fix, if we haven't missed too many of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that strikes me, that we should be able to just add to the tool to flag backgrounds that don't have distractions on them, so that we can actually see, just sort of when we're editing them, setting those up, that hey, there's supposed to be distractions here. Did you on purposely not put them in? And you can always tag it like, hey, this one's not supposed to have distractions.
Yeah, I mean, I can pull up the tool right now and just see if we have like a bunch of areas here without distractions on them.
Are you being distracted by the distractions?
I am being distracted by the distractions. It's working.
Oh no, you're not allowed to do that.
I don't see a lot of areas here that are that don't have them. Well, there's a couple. There's they're tied to the background, so it's the background that has it. Oh, there's a whole bunch here that don't have distractions that we should add them into. A couple of Waterdeep, Trade Ward streets, a bunch of stuff on Yawn that doesn't have them.
All right, yeah, we're almost out of time. Let's not go too deep into that.
I will get someone on that. I do not wish to answer this spam call from Ontario. Thank you very much. And let's move on to the next question. Oh, here we go. The next question is from Kuvu Plan, who asks, what changes were made during the maintenance this Monday? What happened to the redemption codes?
Right. Okay, so two questions. The first question, what changes were made? So changes game side, no changes game side were made, but we did upgrade a long-standing server, actually specifically the game's main server, because it's one of those things where we haven't been able to, and actually there was downtime, of course, for it, due to the operation of the game and how much it relies on that server, upgrading that server actually required us to take the game down while we did it. And so because it required us to take the game down, we've been putting off doing it for
7 years.
Yes, for a very long time. It was overdue, and it definitely needed to get done. And so that 6 hours of downtime should hold us for another, hopefully, 4 or 5 years before we have to upgrade that again.
Years,
yeah. I don't want to leave it that long again, but it was a case where it just, the game without it there, sort of just as the sort of master storage and service system for the game, meant that we needed to have that downtime for it. So that was down for 6 hours. It's replaced. It's brand new. It should hold us for quite some time. So we don't anticipate any further maintenance on that for years to come. As far as the redemption codes, the process of transferring to a new master server meant that we did a full migration of all of the data from one server to another, and that includes a large set of data that is we consider to be sort of fixed data that's not changing, but data that's quite large, and that include things like previous days history, previous redemption codes, and other history tables, like the old version of the stat system, for example. And so when we transferred all of those over, we did that earlier in the week. We did it on
Well, earlier on the week, but yeah.
Well, the previous week.
The previous week.
And
yeah.
so when it came to do the live transfer, some of those tables were flagged as those are already transferred. However, the code table was not included in that. And I know Peter Quick added that table after, but there was a period of about a couple of hours where if codes were made during that time, they weren't transferred. So that's what happened to the redemption codes. I guess anything that was added in there got re-added after. So
yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Aside from that one little thing, I think the transfer, as you mentioned at the top of the show, the transfer went very, very smoothly and almost exactly on the sort of timeline that we were looking at. So it was nice to be able to bring the game up. We said like 5 to 7 hours, and I think we turned off maintenance mode at almost exactly the 6-hour mark. So that felt really good.
Yeah, for sure. It went very smoothly. It's one of those things where I know certainly some of us here were a little nervous about it, and not because from a technical standpoint that it was complicated, because it's kind of the thing that we do on a regular basis with other servers, but it's sort of a linchpin of the game, and so we wanted to make sure. We didn't want anything bad to happen there, because that would mean that we'd end up in further downtime. So.
Yeah. It's literally all of the user data for the game is stored on that server, and of course we have multiple backups all over the place. But it would have just added
it's all over the place.
hours and hours and hours to the maintenance window if something had gone.
If something had gone wrong and we'd had to go to a backup, that would have greatly extended the time. So
yeah. I think that we have filled the entirety of the end of the show with that answer. So I think we're out of time for more questions. If we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry, you'll have another opportunity. We will be live again at this same time next week. Before we sign off, though, we would like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was Jordan and Gabe. I gave you guys a hard time for the name of the giveaway thing. Apologies for that. You guys do a great job. They're the folks who copy the questions into the questions doc and make things awesome in chat. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and of course for enjoying the game, because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
All right, Justin. Did you hear the one about the guy who drank the invisible ink?
No, I haven't. What happened?
He's at the hospital waiting to be seen.
Good one.